and it made me fiery inside to find out what the hell else was out there in the world.
And today I have Miss Erica Blue on the podcast. I met Erica a couple weeks ago. We have a very close mutual friend. Thank you, Patrick. And got to know her a little bit. Started listening to some of her story over for a cup of coffee and realized quickly she was the perfect guest to come on here and talk about her experience. And I'm super enthusiastic about what you do today, but I don't want to give it away what you do. But I love seeing somebody that's out in the community helping use their experience to make a difference, especially in today's day and age. So can't get enough of that. So without further ado, Miss Erica Blue. And I did not mean to rhyme that either. It just came out like that.
Thank you, Shawn. I'm super excited to be here.
Thank you. You want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your journey, what's got you here, what's brought you here today?
Yeah, so like you said, I met you over coffee through a mutual friend, shout out Patrick, and felt really comfortable and easy talking to you. I've never been really good at small talk or walking into big rooms of strangers and leaving with friends.
Right.
It's just never been my strong suit.
Right.
But sit me down with somebody who wants to have a raw, authentic, genuine conversation, and that gets me really pumped up. I like to just know people and what makes them tick. So I'm super happy to be here and super happy to know you, because that's how I felt when we had coffee.
And we had come in contact years before, but I don't think we had realized it.
Yeah, so there's a couple ways that I know of you. One through another mutual friend, Scott Merritt.
Mm-hmm.
But
what's up, Scott?
What's up, Scott? My husband, Ray, is also an ultra runner, and so I've been in the running community, especially the trail running community, for a few years now, and so have seen you and a posse of people following you at those races, and had heard about your story and seen the documentary. So I've been a fan from afar. So it's really cool to be here.
Don't say that.
Yeah,
don't
it's
say
true.
That. Thank you very much. So
Yeah.
I'm glad we finally got connected. Where did your journey all kind of begin?
Yeah, so kind of what I was sharing with you over coffee is how I got to my current job.
Uh-huh.
So I'm currently the CEO of Austin Sunshine Camps, but where it all started was in Southwest Houston. So I grew up in an area called Alief.
Okay.
Which everyone always is like, I don't know what that is, but it's right in between Sugar Land and Katy. People have heard of those two places, but not the place in the middle called Alief, because when you live in Alief, you try and get to Sugar Land or Katy.
Gotcha.
At least when I was growing up there.
Now what's Alief, like letter A and then leaf?
It's ALIEF.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I graduated high school in 1997, just to give you a timeline. And back when I was going to school in Alief, it was very gang-ridden.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of Bloods and Crips, a lot of crime. I remember days in high school where we would be on lockdown until 9 p.m. because activity was happening around the school and they didn't want to let us out.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're locked in the school till 9 p.m. at night?
Locked in the school, literally with chains around the doors till 9 p.m. But, looking back on it, it seems kind of outrageous. Growing up there, it was just what I knew.
Right.
And everyone in Alief, nobody was rich. We all struggled with having our electricity turned off every now and then. Nobody had a lot of money, drove nice cars or anything like that. So it was just kind of the way life was. My mom was a young mother. She had 2 abortions before I was even born, and then I'm the first of 4.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I was born when she was about 20 years old. And my father is and always has been addicted to drugs and alcohol since I have been old enough to know him. So he was in and out of my life, in and out of prison. I think I've never actually checked this in the records, but I think there's a maximum amount of times you can be married in Texas legally, which I think is 5. And he's been married 5 times.
Really?
And tried to get married the 6th time and got denied because you're not allowed to do that.
Really? I've never heard of that.
Yeah. He's always been kind of a mess.
Okay.
And as the oldest of 4 kids, I just grew up feeling this real pressure to get my siblings out of that situation. And to get myself out of that situation. And in between 6th and 7th grade, I had a friend in middle school invite me to an overnight camp that my parents could not afford to send me to. And so her stepdad, who was a doctor, which in A-Leaf was like, holy shit, a doctor.
Right.
He ended up paying my way to that week-long summer camp.
Okay.
And it literally changed my life. I mean, it's hard to describe what happened in that week for me, but I tell people it was like I got plucked from a tiny carnival fishbowl and dropped into the great big ocean.
Right.
It was like my worldview just opened up for the first time, and I saw people that I had never seen before, heard about their lives that I didn't know was possible, and it made me fiery inside to find out what the hell else was out there in the world.
Right.
And to go searching for something different than what I knew at home.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
The town or city that I grew up in, it's not tiny, but it's like the size of Waco, kind of. And it's funny, you think everything just revolves around that little city, like that's the world. Luckily, I went into the military at a young age and got cultured really quick, but it hurts me a little bit when I go back to visit at home sometimes and you get to talking to somebody and they're so wrapped up into the he said, she said, or what's going on in this little town. And I just kind of want to grab them and be like, hey, guess what? None of this shit matters. Like, there's a whole world out here where, and it's funny, like even being in a big city when I moved to Austin, you don't know, from my experience, you don't really know your neighbors like you did when you were back in that small town, but it's because everybody's so busy with whatever they have going on that there's not that time to care about who the neighbor's banging or whatever wild stuff is like that. So it's I think it's unique and special that you by the grace of this doctor were able to have this experience in your life. And I would think anybody that's starting a camp, you're the reason why they're doing it. It's for that one kid that has that experience and ends up taking them in a whole nother positive direction. So that's amazing.
Yeah, thanks. I feel really lucky, honestly, to be able to give that same opportunity that he gave to me to kids in our community. It humbles me every time I stop, doing the work and think about it.
Right.
And see families coming every year that is my family, and remembering, meeting their parents and learning about how they actually feel and thinking about what my mom must have been feeling back then and seeing myself in those kids. It's a real honor. It's a real fulfilling thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you ever gone back and told that, were you ever able to go back and tell that doctor like what a moment that was for you?
No? I would love to though. No, I lost touch with my friend. Randomly, I saw her in an airport many years ago, but I hadn't put the whole thing together because I honestly hadn't thought about how that story unfolded until I was applying for this job.
Right.
And I was literally driving to the first interview and the whole thing hit me oh my gosh. I could barely keep myself together in that interview because I was like, yeah, I have to have this job. Yeah. I literally was like, I don't care who else is in the running. I'm going to crush this fucking competition because I got to get this job.
Did you bring up that story at all in the interview?
I did. I think it was the first thing I said. And I remember the people's eyes being like, okay, this is over.
This is it. We got her.
Yeah.
What are you comfortable talking about your childhood and with your dad and your other brothers and sisters?
2 brothers and a sister.
2 brothers and a sister. How did they all manage? Like you saw that you needed to get out, you needed to get them out. Were they of that same mind?
Well, my next brother, he and I share the same dad. Okay. And then my younger brother and sister have a different dad who was an amazing stepdad to me, who unfortunately died in 2009 of cancer, but showed me what unconditional love looks like.
Right.
Shout out to Grove. But
thank you, Grove.
Thank you, Grove.
I have a stepdad.
Thank you to all the step parents out there, by the way, who are doing that.
Yeah, my stepfather did the same thing for me, so I get it.
Yeah. But my next youngest brother and I think he saw it, but he definitely has a different view on life where I wanted to fix it. I wanted to help my dad. I could see so much good in him.
Mm-hmm.
I could see how smart he was. He was the person that would walk into a room full of strangers and come out with 100 friends.
Mm-hmm.
He's a super charismatic guy, and really smart, but
You're
always.
talking about your dad,
I'm
right?
talking about my dad,
Okay.
but always wasted.
Yeah.
And when he was wasted, he was mean and chaotic and scary, and it was just so unpredictable. And as a child, I mean, that's, it's just a hard situation to be in because you're always on edge and you never know what's coming next. And you don't know if this beer is the beer that's going to send him into that guy that chases me down the hallway and I have to like shove my brother into this room and slam the door so that he can't get in. It was terrifying.
Yeah.
And my parents, they were divorced when I was about 2, but they hated each other beyond explanation.
Right.
So I really wanted to keep what he used to be like away from my mom because I didn't want her to stop me from going to see him because I loved him.
Right.
And so a lot of it I feel like was just in me and on my shoulders.
Right.
I don't know if that's really true, but that's how it felt.
No, that's how it felt.
Yeah.
So, I think I talk about it quite frequently, but it's only been recently, these past couple years, where I fully started to understand and can make the connection of how, and I know it's a simple connection to make, but how your childhood forms who you are when you're older. And so a lot of the people that I come across that are, they're mean, they're belligerent, selfish, whatever it is, like, it's like, oh, wait a minute, this is, you're basically a big hurt child right now. You didn't get what you needed, like, and you go back to even thinking in high school, like, I think about the bullies that were in our school and stuff like that, and it's like, damn, they were probably getting their ass beat at home, and like there was a whole other thing, like, I don't think when we're born we're just inherently evil.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's got to come from
hurt people.
Yeah. That's a very good saying. So what you go to this camp, and then what's it like to come back? You go have one of the most amazing weeks in your life, probably.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
And then you come back. What's that like?
How the fuck do I get out of here?
Really?
Yeah.
That's what lit a fire under. Like, we
it
need
really
to go.
did. Yeah, because and it's hard to explain when you're living in a bubble like that. But I didn't know anything else existed, and so being able to see that something else existed was, life changing for me. And how do I get out of here and go find out what else is there? And that was just my steady path. Like, I wasn't a great student. I'm not incredibly intelligent, but get by with, get out of school, graduate was the goal. Be the first person in my family to go to college. Whatever path you have to do to be able to do that, make it happen. I didn't know anything about college. I didn't know where I should go or what I should study or how much it cost. Nothing. But I knew that's like what I had to do to get out of this. So that's what that week had me do. Just really focus on getting the hell out of there and finding a different way to live.
So how old were you at that time?
6th grade, in between 6th and 7th grade. So 12.
So you had a couple years. You still had to go through high school before you could finally get out of there.
Yeah.
And so then you graduate senior year?
Well, I started playing sports.
Okay.
Which was a big thing for me too, because my coaches and my teammates were the people in my life that showed me that I had qualities in me that I couldn't see for myself. And I wanted to show up for them. I wanted to not disappoint them because my parents just really weren't like that. My mom is a super loving person, and there's no doubt in my mind that she loves me, but holding me accountable to being my best was not something that I grew up with. And so having teammates and coaches who were that for me was very motivating because I wanted a way out. And when people told me I was doing good at something, I was like, okay, I'm doing good at that. Let me keep doing that.
Right. I can imagine not having ever really heard that. And then you go to this warm place where people are starting to give you some reaffirmations that you're doing well. Had to feel great. What sports were you into?
I played softball mostly. That's what I went to college playing, but I played volleyball and basketball and track too. Although
Okay.
there's some damn good basketball players in A-Leave,
Yeah.
so it didn't
I
last
bet.
very long.
I was very naive when I was young, and I picked basketball. I was like, all right, I'm quitting all other sports. I'm going to play basketball. And then within a couple years, I realized I had made a great mistake. And then volleyball, I had no idea. I took my sister to a UT tournament one time.
Yeah.
And so it was like Virginia, Central Florida, and she was playing high school volleyball at the time. So I was like, oh, cool, I'll take it there. I had no idea to
Did you
the
see
level.
UT play?
Yeah.
It was amazing, right?
Yeah. Like, I was like, oh,
Everyone
shit.
should put it on their bucket list. Go see UT play volleyball.
I would get murdered out there if I even stepped out on the court. Like, I walked in there very naive. Like, if someone asked me, you think you could hop out into this D1 women's volleyball game? I'm like, absolutely.
I'm in.
And then I watched. I was like, oh, hell no. They're doing, like, fake outs where there's one person jumping to fake you out on the other, and it's just constant.
Savages.
Yeah. It was.
They're amazing.
I quickly realized there's levels to that shit.
Yeah.
And I'm not on one of them.
Super fun sport.
Right. So then you get done with that. You graduate high school.
Yeah, and I got a college scholarship to play softball
Let's go.
at Sam Houston State. I was not good at softball, let's be clear.
Okay.
I had an amazing fucking attitude,
Right.
which
What-
was attractive to the coaches.
All right, I'm gonna guess you were either shortstop,
No.
second base.
Yeah.
Were you?
Good guess. Yeah. Yeah. Is it because I'm so bulky and you think?
Yeah. That's what it is. I was gonna go center field after that.
Yeah. All good guesses. All positions my daughter plays now.
Oh,
Yeah. So I
chip
played.
off the old block.
Right. I played softball at Sam Houston only for a year because it became a lot less fun than I remembered it being before college. It was much more of a job, but that landed me in college. And I was pretty lost, just like most first-generation students are. You know, my family didn't know anything about college. A lot of my friends did not go to college. They were still at home. So I really was out there alone on my own trying to figure it out.
Right. How far were you actually away from home?
About an hour and a half.
Was that far enough for you?
Yeah, it was good. It was a good distance. But, you know, if I could do it all over again, right? It's a typical daddy issue story. You know, when you grow up with a father like that, I think you're looking for love in all the wrong places, and you're looking for acceptance in people that aren't there to give you acceptance. You're looking for everything you have inside, but you don't know that yet.
Yeah.
And you're really hard to love because you have a lot of walls up.
Right.
You expect people to disappoint you. You expect people to not show up. And so I was a mess.
I was just gonna ask you, how did that affect your relationships or love life? You know, not love life. I'm trying to look for the right word, but how did that
Yeah.
affect that? But obviously, somebody cracked the code.
And
broke
not
down your
before I
walls?
got lots of bad tattoos and made a lot of mistakes.
Right.
And man, I was just one of the lucky people that didn't get pregnant or, you know, have something really bad happen to them, because I sure could have.
Right.
I mean, I pray to God my daughter does not act the way I did when I was finally free from, you know, my home life into college, because it was insanity. And it's hard to keep that life up. You know, after a few years of that, like, you're going to kill yourself.
Yeah.
I could see my dad in me. I could see myself in my dad and following those same tendencies to be addicted to things. And it was scary.
Right. How would you say, so with the childhood you have, how would you say that affects your parenting today? Like, is it a thought? You know, does stuff come up where you're like, I have to be better than my dad, I have to be better than my mom was, or?
Yeah. Well, I divorced my daughter's dad when she was about 1, and so first and foremost, I put a lot of effort into co-parenting with him, and so does my husband, and so does his wife, and so props to all of them. It takes everybody, but I never want my daughter to feel in between us, like I felt in between my parents, and like I was always the mediator and gatekeeper and peacemaker, and that's just too much for a little child to have on their shoulders.
Yeah.
So I never want her to feel like that. But also, I am fucking determined as hell to be the best version of myself that I can possibly be, because I deserve it and she deserves it. And I just never had that in the role models I had growing up. People, that just wasn't a thing. It was more just about survival.
Yeah.
It wasn't about how can I be better tomorrow than I am today.
Mm-hmm.
And if anything, I want Zoe to grow up and be like, man, my mom was trying her best to be her best, and that motivates me to want to be my best. So yeah, it affects my parenting every second of every day.
Just knowing you, I'm sure your daughter's your biggest fan.
Thanks for saying that. She's 11, so
you don't always she doesn't always say it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know that day is going to come where she did.
I hope so.
She does. It does for sure.
Yeah, she's pretty great though.
I can remember my mom and my stepdad. I know there was some years I put them through where it was definitely a thankless job, and so I make up for it nowadays by just every time I can, just thank you for putting up with my ass for so long.
I love that.
I appreciate it. What so with your kind of what was the route? Obviously you've changed your life, but like, did you have to go into any type of therapy or like talk to someone or like try to help navigate those waters? Like, how did you, or did you just kind of on your own come out of the therapy and deal with it in your own way?
A little bit of both. I definitely have been to therapy before. I think, though, the past 16 years, I've been working in the social services space with families who are really a lot like the family I grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
And that in and of itself has provided me a lot of therapy, being able to, I'm fascinated by people. So watching them and seeing how they interact with each other and why they make the decisions they do and the perceptions of others that they have is really fascinating to me. So I've learned so much through the families that I've been working with over the past 16 years and their children, and seeing myself in them and being able to be like, oh, like that's the thing I was feeling that I was wrong about, you know?
Right.
And again, just being on that pursuit of always trying to be your best, then you're always seeking information and learning and realizing that a lot of the shit you're out there searching for is right inside. Yeah. And it's about like not being scared to go inside and walk through some of those fires you haven't walked through. So I think a combination of my job and just my, you know, honestly, when I look at like, where did I get these genetics that just make me want to do better? I feel like it is actually my dad, even though that might sound really crazy. He's just, you know, drowning in alcohol and addiction. But underneath that, I think there's somebody a lot like me, and that motivates me too, because I don't want to be, his life is really hard.
Yeah. And
he's alone now, and that is really sad. And I don't want to be that person. I mean, he's somewhere in a country town in Texas alone in a RV that someone lent him with a lot of felonies on his record, and I don't know how many wives.
Right.
A lot of wives. Right. Nobody gives a shit about him anymore because he's burned too many bridges.
Yeah.
That's fucking motivating.
Yeah.
I don't want that.
Right. Yeah, for sure. You're taking words right out of my mouth, and you're speaking my language. I always talk about everything I do now. I have a chip on my shoulder, and I think like if you look at the track history of people, like, you know, you've been through trauma, you've been through some shit, and you've been lucky enough to get out on the other side. You know, myself included in that. And I think that's what drives me, is to like know where I came from and, you know, the circumstances of my journey and all that stuff, but to prove to people like that may have happened, but that's not me. Let me show you who I am. And so everything I do competitively, and I'm just trying to only be the best version of myself each day and get better and better and better.
Yeah. That's really hard work though.
It is. It is.
Because so props to you.
It's never over. Well,
you're doing
the same thing.
And
you gotta stop giving me props. You gotta stop.
This is the anti-prop Shawn show. Okay.
I don't know why I don't do well with it. It's like I shut down for some reason.
You're a piece of shit.
That's what gets me going.
That'll get on fire.
Yeah, that's what gets me going right there. I'm conditioned. If your dad, I obviously this is probably a conversation for off camera, but if your dad needs help, I work with some of the best places in the country. If he needs help, we can get him help.
That's awesome.
I don't know what's your guys' relationship like today?
It's hardly existent.
Right. That's what I figured.
I probably went too long trying to help him and make it better and had too much damage done through that time, but I was pretty relentless about it until my daughter was born. And then, bringing that kind of chaos into your kid's life, it makes you look at it through a whole different light because, I'm her mom and I will jack somebody up.
Yeah, your job is to protect her.
Exactly, yeah. But, he told me one time, Shawn, I'm interested in your take on this, that one of the times he got out of jail, he was in a halfway house and there was a family day where you're supposed to come and support your family member. And I remember sitting around this table with him and my grandma and his sister. And, I think he had been in jail that time, not 5 years, so a pretty long stint, and had been in this halfway house for several months. And there was hope there, for the family, like maybe this is the moment. And the first thing he said to us was, "This is not your fault, and I'll never stop drinking." And you're like, oh, really?
Yeah.
This is what I came here for? Right. And he's dead serious.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like, can you help someone like that?
You can. It's tough because every case is so different, but people react to different things. I was somebody that I didn't react well to like the soft, loving embrace. So like, it's gonna be okay, we can make it. Like that didn't. I was like, yeah, okay. Like I didn't, and that's much what a family does. That's how you're programmed to be with family and stuff like that. And I've dealt with it even within my own family, where I'm trying to explain to people, and it's the hardest thing to try to explain because you're dealing with somebody's life, and it's literally life or death. But for me, what it took was sitting inside of a prison cell and for my mother to quit picking up the phone. She'll no longer accept my collect calls anymore. And so then you do some real deep reflecting when mom, of all people, won't pick up your calls anymore. Yeah. And so it's just about getting like there are some people that are bound and determined to kill themselves this way. Like they will drink themselves, they will smoke themselves, whatever they do, they're going to die doing it. Yeah. And they don't, in my opinion, they don't want to, but there's something that's happened trauma-wise or something. There's a reason he's like this. He wasn't just born like it, like we said before. And so sometimes it may need, he may need a stern figure to come in there and tell him some shit he probably doesn't want to hear, but to hit the right buttons where it's like, man, it's not too late. You can still be in your daughter's life. You could still be in your granddaughter's life, but you have to do some work, or you could just keep sitting in this RV and drink yourself to death. It's your life. Yeah.
That's sad. I don't want him to die alone, Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so hard. The hardest question I ever get, like when I'm going to do talks or stuff, it always seems like it's a mother. And they'll, how do I deal with a son? It'll be like really close to what mine was. How do I deal with a son? And so trying to tell somebody like, you basically got to quit picking up the phone for your kid. And I don't care if he's starving. You don't give him money. You don't give him gift cards. I can't really say that because that goes against every fiber in a mother's body. And like you have children, so
Yeah, that's such a tough situation. Right. I don't know what I would do.
It's tough. But I've done some interventions on people where on the phone they were 1,000% not going to treatment that day, and I was still able to get them to go to treatment. There was one guy that was he was talking pretty big, and it was funny. I had heard everything about him and the situation, and he was stoutly against it. But he was living at mom's house still, or his wife and him had split up, and he was living at his mom's. And so I met mom, who's she's elderly, and so I met her out front. And she's like, "All right, I'll take you inside." And I was like, "All right, cool." And so we went walking in, and she's like, "He's in bed." It was noon. It's midday. She's like, "He's still in bed. Why don't you come in here with me, and we'll wake him up." And I was like, I don't know if that's smart. I wouldn't want to wake up seeing me standing over that. She's like, no, it'll be fine. And so she opens the door and she's like, "Honey, somebody's here to see you." And so I'm standing in the doorway, and all you see was just like these two white eyes pop open, and then I got him to go to treatment, and we're on the drive there, and he looked over at me. He's like, "I'm not gonna lie, dude, I was scared as shit when I woke up and saw you standing there." But I think in an answer, a very long answer to your question, when someone's able to sit down across from your dad, and I'm able to speak from a place that I've been where you've been, and there is, and be able to understand. I've been to prison too, dude. Like there's, I've lived that same life. We don't have to, and giving him some examples of what life looked for me then, so he knows that I'm coming from the same place. But what life looks like now, it usually hits him in a certain way that a mom, dad, daughter, son can't really get to him because they're speaking from the family dynamic.
Yeah, no, I agree. And there's so much animosity there because I think when my dad looks at me, he sees my mom's daughter, who he hates. Right. And so
he's got too many wives to be hating people.
I know,
That's
right?
going to be a lot of people.
Yeah.
Did he have kids with every wife?
There's no other kids that I know of, but
there's got to be one out there.
There was literally a time when my aunt got married and I was at the wedding, and this woman walked up to me holding a baby, and she said, "I think you have a right to know your brother." And I was like, "Dad?" It ended up being my uncle's child. That's how country these people are. But yeah, so who knows?
That would have been some wild shit.
Yeah. But not that I know of. Yeah.
What so with your, the one thing you said earlier, it's amazing because you're like, yeah, I did therapy, and I tried to do things, but at the end of the day, doing my job and working with these other families has been the best therapy I could get. 100%. And that's literally why this podcast exists. That's what I do every day, and it's using your experience to help others. It's the only thing that's ever filled that void in my heart, that I tried to fill with drugs and alcohol and stuff. Yeah. And it's the main message I'm always trying to get to people. It's like, we all come from these different walks of life. We're all recovering from something. We've all had stuff happen to us. It's so selfish to think that if you get through that, you just want to go on about living your life and not go back and use it to help people. Do you want to find a deeper meaning in life? Start helping some people and see how that makes you feel. And usually the people that I know that have been in the deepest, darkest places that now are using that experience to help others they're some of my best friends, and they're some of the happiest people I know. You know what I mean? Because you know what it's like on the other side. If you've never been even near a rock bottom, then how do you know how good you have it?
Yeah. I don't know that there is a better feeling than helping people. And before I went into that career, I was doing for-profit, want to shoot myself in the head kind of work. But I did it for the money because I thought that's what I was supposed to be doing.
Right.
But once you have that kind of fulfillment in your heart, it's hard to imagine life without it. And I think you can see, if you don't have that, the dark side's really close by.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to, lock yourself up in a room and get in your own head and get really depressed and not know what the meaning of life is and ponder all these questions that, make you go into downward spiral. Where if you can focus on connection, for me, is it, like real connection, right? Like I know who you are. I'm learning about you. Your experiences are so different than mine. That's where it fills my heart, and you gain empathy and sympathy and can understand people in a whole different way. You feel a lot less like jumping into a side of being polarized in whatever topic you can pick, and more like, man, people don't work like that. Right. People are complicated and layered and complex, and there's no black and white answer to any subject you can bring up, but people fall somewhere on the spectrum.
Right.
And just having that connection with people from all walks of life is, to me, the most healing and the most exciting and fulfilling thing to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Just as you're saying that, I think about the times even recently where something's not going my way, or something's going on in life, and I kind of slip into some anxiety, depression, or whatever like that. It makes me realize, even you can go back to my addiction, like for me personally, like idle time, idle hands, that's where I go wrong. That's where I get all up in my head. That's where I start overthink something, make bad decisions, decide using drugs is a good idea, like all these things. And anytime, most of my days are filled with helping people. And during that time, there's never been one time I could point to that, man, when I was doing this with them, like I was super depressed. Like that doesn't happen because it's the only thing that takes me outside of myself.
Yeah.
And you start realizing like helping them just helps me just as much.
Yeah.
It's a topic in the recovery community that we talk about a lot, but I don't think people outside of that tend to know that much.
Yeah.
I'm speaking generally. I'm sure there's
Yeah, of
definitely
course.
people out there,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. One way I look at it, and see if I can explain this, if it makes any sense to you. Like when you're in that space where you're constantly thinking about yourself, whether that be depression or, anxiety or just like you're in your own head, it's a really selfish place to be. It's like you really think you're more important than you are.
Yeah.
And when you're out in your community making connections with other people who are different than you, who have different stories than you realize like I'm not that important.
right.
And I don't mean that in a negative way. Like I don't think, being depressed, you're trying to be selfish, not in that kind of connection. But I think going out and being connected to people other than yourself really brings you some perspective
Yeah.
on your significance in this greater
No, definitely.
thing called life.
Definitely. And it's easy, especially like, I mean, I'm going through it recently with, doing this podcast or when the documentary came out and stuff like that. There's so many times, my ego, I've said it on the podcast before, but my ego and addiction was enormous. I couldn't have fit through that double doorway right there, but for literally no reason.
Right.
Like, I don't know what I had an ego about. I wasn't shit. And then, some of these good things have, I've been blessed with to have these people in my life and help me with opportunities and all that. And so, doing public speaking, doing the podcast, there's a lot of questions that get asked to me, and it's a lot of me all the time. And I never know quite what to say because I just like, man, I just want to speak. I just want to help people. Like, cause that's literally all I want to do. And, it's like, it's weird to be on the other side of the spectrum right now where like, I don't want focus to be on me. I'm not that important. Like,
You don't like compliments.
I don't like compliments when like I used to fish for them back in the day.
Yeah.
Now I get them and I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, that's really interesting, huh? What do you think that is?
I think I just look back and am so disgusted with the misguided way I was before, where it's just like I'll do. We talked before we came on the podcast about a story where it like taught me a valuable lesson of like, luckily I'm able to identify people in life now where it's like I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be like that. I'm never going to do that. Even working with people in the recovery community, there's people every day that are relapsing or this or that, and so it's. As long as you're paying attention, it's constant reminders everywhere you're looking.
Yeah.
And so I just want to keep doing me, and as long as people keep telling me I'm helping people, then I know I'm on the right track.
Yeah.
And all that. But it's something very easy to slip into, like, back into self and thinking you're the center of the world, and life has a way of letting you know that you ain't shit.
Yeah,
Like,
you really don't matter.
right. Not
Yeah.
that you ain't shit. Everybody's something.
Everybody matters,
Yeah.
right?
You get what I'm saying.
I do.
You get my sarcasm.
No, I totally get it. I mean, it's honestly like part of what I do in my work is helping kids gain self-confidence and know that they're important, and at the same time realizing like everybody is important and we're all valuable, and you're part of this bigger picture that you can be
Right.
you can be helpful in, or you can not be helpful in. But one thing you were saying reminds me of what I was referencing, the way I acted back in college and throughout my early adulthood. Just I don't really have regrets in life, but looking back on how I treated some people back then makes me feel like total shit.
Yeah.
And I never want to feel like that again, because that is terrible.
Yeah, for
way
sure.
to.
But you learned from it.
I learned from it. Yeah.
Right. There's a lot of people in
Been
the world
racing, sprinting away from it
right,
for
right.
many years.
There's so many people that don't learn from those mistakes
Yeah.
and just keep making them over again. So last time I'll go back to your childhood, but do you have a moment where you felt was like your rock bottom moment, where that's when you took a look around and you're like, all right, I have to change this situation ASAP?
Yeah, the memory that immediately comes up is at my dad's mom's house, my grandma, who was this amazing, amazing human being that was married to a real asshole.
Okay.
And I never could understand why she was married to him. But my dad and my grandfather had gotten totally trashed, which was a normal thing.
So is this his father?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which was a normal thing by a certain time of night. And so my brother and I would just kind of know that it's time to disappear and go do something else. And that particular night, they had made us sit around the kitchen table because they wanted to have a talk with us about our mom, who they hated a lot. I don't remember how old I was, maybe 8, which would make my brother like 6. He didn't know shit. And
definitely the ages you should be having those serious conversations.
At midnight when people are super sauced up. Yeah. So I sat at that kitchen table and listened to those two guys tell me things about my mother that no kid should ever have to hear. And I decided that I was going to fight back. And so I started telling them that they were wrong and that that's not how my mom was. And my dad got up from the table, and I knew I better get out of there quick. And so I grabbed my little brother, and we ran down the hall, and we shut ourselves in a bedroom door, and my dad and my grandpa banged on that bedroom door for, I don't know, it felt like forever. Until they finally gave up, and we spent the night in there, locked ourselves in that room. And I never wanted to go back there. I never wanted to be in that situation again. And I couldn't go home and tell my mom about it because she would have never let me see my grandma again. And so, man, it just motivated the shit out of me to get out of here.
Right.
And to get my siblings out of here.
Thank God that was your reaction, is motivation, and not it just completely crumble you and you know what I mean. God. Submit to that being what life was going to be for you. I
don't know what that is, but I'm grateful for it, whatever it is, whether that be genetics or who knows, some other higher power. Yeah. Thank you to whatever made me strong after that. So
now looking back on that, do you have a moment, like kind of like your redemption moment, where you were able to kind of look around in life and be like, I fucking made it. I'm here.
I mean, yeah, it's being in rooms like this, honestly. Like, as a child growing up where I grew up and how I grew up, I never could have dreamed of, being here.
Let's go.
Or it happens a lot when we, at a nonprofit, we do a lot of fundraising, and that introduces you to some amazing human beings who are super caring and giving and just want to do good in the world with what they've made. And being in those rooms are humbling because I never would have thought I would have been around people that were that rich and smart, first of all, but also that they believe in me and what I'm doing, and that they want to give money to a cause that I believe in because of the work that I'm doing. Yeah, man, I feel like I made it when I'm in those rooms. Like, I never could imagine myself here. Being able to represent all the kids that I get to represent who are just like me, that's pretty awesome.
Right. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I know exactly what you're saying because I feel the same exact way about myself. I ask myself all the time, like, why do these people care about me, or why are they in my life? You know what I mean? So that's super powerful. Yeah. Thank you for that. That's your redemption moment. And so now, Austin Sunshine Camps. How long you been with them?
Yeah, 5.5, almost 6 years.
6 years?
Yeah.
And you're the CEO?
CEO,
okay.
Yep.
And so what does that look like for you? Like, what are you doing year-round to put this on?
Yeah.
Do you want a tissue?
Please. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, sir.
I almost made it. So Austin Sunshine Camp CEO, every day looks different, which is fun and great, and I love that. Sometimes I'm working on trying to deliver. Well, I should just say what we do real quick. So Austin Sunshine Camps, we say we provide the magic of overnight camp without the barrier of cost. But overnight camp is this really unique, amazing experience that you can have where, you get to try new things that you've never tried before, climb up 40 feet on a ropes course and challenge yourself to jump off the ledge. You get to meet people who are super different than you. You get to be in an environment where there's no screens and no cell phones and no social media. and you get to be influenced by these great mentors who dedicate their summers. It's just a really special, unique environment. And I think the average cost, I heard this like either yesterday or the day before, the average cost for a 10-day, 9-night camp in America is $4,900. So the kids that we serve either qualify for free or reduced lunch, or they're in foster care. And we provide 10 days and 9 nights of a quintessential summer camp experience at no cost. The idea is that, and what really happens during summer camp is you build resilience, right? You learn to be yourself away from the comfort of your school or your sports team or your home, and you learn to overcome challenges that life will definitely throw your way, and therefore become more resilient. And in my opinion, when you have that, you can have hope. I mean, you can have hope for that day and the next day and whatever. So I'm out there just, preaching that and representing the kids that we serve, trying to make sure that they can have that experience each and every year. There really aren't many overnight camps in the country serving the kids that we serve. There are definitely some overnight camps out there that are doing good things for terminally ill kids or kids who have lost a parent or other great causes. But for just kids whose families can't afford it or who are somewhere in the foster care system, we're one of less than 5 in the country. So that motivates the hell out of me too, to make sure that those kiddos get a chance to come build some resilience and have a really awesome, potentially life-changing, like mine was, opportunity.
Right.
So sometimes that looks like fundraising. Sometimes that looks like refining our programming. Sometimes that looks like giving speeches to anybody who will listen to me.
Right.
Sometimes that looks like having coffees with Shawn Livingston because somebody said you need to know this guy.
Right.
So.
I had told you when we had coffee that my mom in Youngstown, Ohio, where we're from, she had started it was called the National Youth Sport Program. But, when she started it, what it did was, I told you before, there was bring kids from the inner city, get them off the street for the summer. They get access to the university, everything the university has to offer. So they're learning basketball fundamentals on the basketball court the college plays on, the volleyball court, the track,
so cool.
the pool.
Yeah.
They're able to go on the football field, and it was so cool to see them come onto the campus. And the first year that it started, I was a camper, and so I'm all super excited. This is the first time I'm going to summer camp. We show up. I end up out of, I think, over 200 kids. I was the only white kid, and I didn't even notice it just because it was what I was used to. But you talk about going and being around different cultures and learning from different people and stuff like that. Luckily I was always exposed to that at an early age, but it was so cool to have gone to camp, and then I went back and I'd worked summers for my mom there. And I will tell you, I don't know if I told you this in coffee, but I've done just about every hard blue labor job you could do. That was hands down the hardest job I've ever had in my life.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah.
Hands down. If you are a camp counselor or whatever the proper terminology is, I've never been so tired in my life. I've never said no, don't stop, quit it, don't hit her, don't hit him, and all the others. So many times.
I'm so glad you said that. Yeah, people that haven't experienced it don't. It's hard to explain.
Exhausting. But
yeah,
you find that one or those couple kids that you can identify pretty quickly. It's like, oh, you're the reason
they need this.
You're the reason I'm doing this. I had this one. I can't remember his name to save my life, but he was like a little Mighty Mouse. He was loud, he was tough, and he was shorter than everybody, and he had a little Napoleon complex, but he would never leave my side. He was always by my side, looking up at me, asking me questions and stuff like that. And I just remember that connection that I had with him back then. So I know you know better than anybody, but the effect that can have on people. Yeah,
no, that's a great story, and I'm sure he remembers that connection too. I hear it all the time, which is really cool because Austin Sunshine Camps is 95 years old, so I get to see kids who have been to camp and are grown as adults now who come to me and go, man, it changed my life. It made such a difference. And so each summer when I have that kid who's really pissing me off, I'm like, come on, buddy. I can look at him and picture him as an adult going, man, this was amazing. And how he might remember that summer is, motivating, and how I and my team responds to his behavior issues that summer. But yeah, I hear that all the time. The connection I made with my counselor, the people I met that I'm still friends with, the things I got to do that were so different than life I was living. Yeah.
I don't know if, you talked about, you've already brought it up, but the importance of like the impact your coaches had on you when you were young.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, especially in today's world, but kids nowadays, like, they hear mom and dad's voice every day. They hear their teacher's voice every day. And so I knew what it was like for me. I end up tuning those voices out. You know what I mean? Only now in my 30s and my 40s can I look back and not have the ego to be like, oh, I should have listened to mom and dad a long time ago. Life would have been so much easier. But I do remember those people I had throughout my life, whether it was a coach or a counselor or something like that. That was that outside voice that may have been saying the exact same thing, just in a different way that my parents were saying, that it stuck with me. Yeah. And so I hope anybody that does that job and that counselor realize that they do have the ability to make that imprint and that impact on a young life right there.
They really do. And, I've thought a lot about my own childhood and thought, like, how did I get here? How come I'm not in jail? How come I'm not addicted to something? Like, what happened to me? Because when you read the research, it will tell you that the one of the biggest predictors of your future is your parents and your connection with them and your relationship with them. So when I think back on that, I'm like, well, shit, how did this happen? And it's because of those people like my coaches who stepped up to care about a stranger and to give some time and to see something in somebody that they didn't see in themselves. I mean, even those small moments, which I'm sure many of them that ended up being life-changing for me, they don't even remember. But yeah, I mean, anybody who's out there dedicating some time in that kind of way, you are making a difference. So don't quit, don't stop. And I'll tell you who won't tell you, the kids you're serving now. Right. They will never tell you thank you in the way that you deserve. But I get to see them as adults, and I get to be that adult to go, oh man, gosh, if only I could go back and find that person and tell them thank you. Right. So, yeah.
For sure. So now is Austin Sunshine Camps, is it only in Austin?
Right now, it's only in Austin, but our strategic plan has expansion in the future. So we're working right now to make sure that everything we're doing in Austin is sustainable and it's a model that we can replicate, because the need is so great and there's not many camps out there serving the kids that we serve. We really want to expand and bring the opportunity to more kiddos.
You said 500? How many kids?
Yeah, a little over 500 kids we serve a year in Austin.
I don't know that I've ever heard. I mean, they might be out there, and if I apologize if you are out there and I don't know about you, but I've heard of small organizations doing something like that, but I've never heard of anybody doing 500. That's a lot of it's a lot of kids.
It's a lot, and there are 40,000 in Central Texas that qualify for our program.
Really?
So it's a lot, and it's not a lot, but I think we'll get there. We're pretty determined and feel pretty obligated to bring this opportunity to more folks, because we can see what it does for people.
How do you house 500 kids?
So we have 2 camp locations, and in Zilker Park is where one of them is, and we have 150 beds there. And then we have another location in Marble Falls on Lake Travis, and we have 6 cabins, and each cabin has 12 beds in it.
Okay. And so they get bussed in?
No, their parents actually bring them. Yeah, so their parents drop them off and pick them up 10 days later.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Oh, so the camp is happening at different locations.
Yeah, it's 8 to 11-year-olds and 12 to 15-year-olds.
Oh, okay. So you got them split up. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've thought of everything already.
Yeah, we thought of everything already. And we have what's called a counselor and training program, so that our past campers can become counselors, because it's really hard to find counselors who have been in the shoes of our campers. Yeah. Most counselors are folks who loved going to summer camp, and most summer campers are not the kids that we serve. Right. And so we've done a lot of work to make sure that we have those mentors in front of the campers who have been in their same shoes, who look like them, who they can relate to, who they can see themselves in. So this past summer, I think we had 18% of our seasonal staff were past campers, which is super rewarding, watching those guys grow up. And number one, it's rewarding when they go, oh man, there's a lot of shit that y'all do that we didn't know about. But number two, it's rewarding when they get to have the impact on a kid that they remember someone having on them.
That's awesome. Yeah. So if somebody wants to read more about this, or if they're living in the Austin area, how do they go about getting a hold of you guys to see if they qualify or anything like that?
Yeah, they can go to sunshinecamps.org. And you'll find all the information there. And if you're not in Austin and you think you might want to have a camp like ours, also hit me up.
Yeah. We're going to blow this shit up, put it all over the map.
Yeah.
When is the next camp?
We do year-round programming too.
Oh, really?
So during the school year, we invite our summer campers and their families to camp. So mom, dad, aunt, uncle, if they're in foster care, it may be with a foster home or foster group. And they come to camp for a day or a weekend, and we bring the whole family into the magic. And then we also do a lot of stuff for first-time campers to get them ready for the summer coming up. So we're doing that all year round. And then our summer will start in May, where we train our seasonal staff, and then summer camp happens. We have 4 sessions of 10 days and 9 nights throughout the summer.
Well, just so you know, if there's anything I can ever do to be of service with that, please just say the word. I'd love to at least come check it out and see what you guys do in action. But if not, if I can play a role or do anything, please let me know.
Thank you. I definitely will.
I would
I've
love
already
that.
written it down.
Let's go. I like it. So oftentimes during the podcast we get into some heavy stuff, and so I always like to end on a good note. So if you'll humor me, I would like to just throw out some terms to you, and I just want you to give me the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
All right, are you ready?
Yeah,
You
think
need,
so.
You need a drink?
No.
It's a lot of pressure.
No, yeah.
No. All right, first thing that comes to mind, softball.
Ooh, fun.
Fun. Camp.
Hard.
Are you saying that as a camper or
As the CEO.
As the CEO, hard.
Yeah.
Community.
Important.
God.
The first word that came to mind is unknown. I won't explain it. I'll just leave it.
No, that's perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect. I'm sure that's a common answer amongst people. Family.
Special.
United States of America.
Thankful.
And you got a good one?
Life.
Ooh. It's like my mind just completely went blank, which is kind of weird with the word life.
Right. Jason from the back bringing the
right.
fire
Dang,
right there.
okay.
From the logo.
Oh, man. I'm going to say love.
I like it. What's your favorite movie?
Oh, I can't pick favorites. People ask me about favorites. I can't pick. But my daughter is super into Titanic right now. So
Really?
we've been watching a lot of Jack and Rose.
Okay.
And it's kind of like whatever she's into, that's what I'm into. But I don't have an all-time favorite. There's a lot of great movies out there. Depends on what mood I'm in.
Okay.
You know?
You give me a PC answer right there. Okay. Who were your inspirations growing up?
Oh, man, my coaches and those adults who saw things in me that I didn't see in myself. And I just got to say, too, I try to say this when I'm in rooms with donors and people who are giving back to the community in a way that they will never know how that affects others. But for those people that did that for me, you know, I was a recipient of a lot of programs and a lot of outreach, and I never knew what was happening behind the scenes or how those things worked until now. And those strangers who helped make those programs available to people like me, I mean, now those are my heroes.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that. Who'd you idolize famous-wise? Was there athletes, movie stars, anybody in the mainstream that...
I mean, the USA women's softball team, you know, all those ladies, they were like the OGs when I was growing up. So that was like when softball originally went into the Olympics. And so all of those ladies, you know, it was like one of the coolest things when our softball team got to go watch the USA softball team.
Oh, you guys got to go?
We got to go watch them.
really?
Yeah, that's really awesome.
Did you get to meet anyone?
Yeah. No.
No?
No. Thanks for ruining that experience for me, Shawn.
I figured that would be something. Oh, damn.
Just
I didn't mean it
in
like
the
that.
stands, you know,
Right.
watching the game.
Yeah, I mean, I
But
don't
it
get
was
to
really
go
awesome.
if I go to a Steelers game. I don't get to meet any of them, but it didn't ruin the experience. But I get what you're saying. You don't pick favorites, huh?
I don't.
All right. So
No.
last
Sorry.
question. What's your guilty pleasure, food wise?
Ooh, food-wise, pizza all day.
Pizza?
Yeah.
Where's the
Via
best?
313.
Isn't that real thick?
Yes.
Really? That's my wife's favorite too.
See?
I want up north big flat triangle greasy pieces.
Have you
Home
been
slice.
to Via 313?
No, I don't eat that thick
Okay,
bready
listen.
crap.
They have thin crust too, but it's amazing. You're missing out.
Really?
Yeah.
It's that good.
It's phenomenal.
I'm gonna go home and get Via 313 tonight. And
Get
if
the
it sucks,
Cadillac.
Get the
You're
Cadillac.
welcome. I just changed your life.
Is it? Is it all meat?
No.
No, what is it?
You got to see. Text me after you eat it. Let me know what you think. If your wife likes thick pizza, buy her a Cadillac tonight and let me know how it goes.
Thank you later.
Yes.
All right, I got you. So this is called the I Am Redemption podcast.
Yeah.
I Am Redemption is just a term that it doesn't got to be me. It could be anybody, but it's anybody who's been through some adversity, found their way on the other side, and uses that experience to help other people. And so just in an effort to let the audience get to know you a little bit better, would you mind looking into the camera and letting them know who you are?
Yeah. So on this part, you want me to say I am whatever I am?
Yeah, right there.
Okay. I am a mom. I am a wife. I am worthy. I am an advocate for people who can't advocate for themselves.
And you are a badass, I'll tell you that.
Badass, thank you.
You are a badass. Well, I just wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart for making the trip today and coming out. You absolutely crushed it. I hope everybody goes out and checks out Austin Sunshine Camps. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate you being so vulnerable. It was an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, I know you don't like compliments, but thank you for what you're doing because it is making a difference. And I know you've probably heard this a million times, but from somebody who's serving kids every day and to watch what they go through and the adversity they face,